Welcome back to History on a Hog. I'm Captain Boz. In Part 4, we started down the Santa Fe Trail from eastern Kansas, and we visited several of the initial wagon train stops on the way. So now, let's continue the ride down the trail, working our way to the southwest from where we last left off, at the Matheson Ranch and Buffalo Bill's Well. After resting for a time and replenishing their food and water supplies, the wagon train once again started down the Santa Fe Trail towards the west. And it was not long after they set out that they quickly came upon the Arkansas River. I make a point of pronouncing it the Arkansas River because this is how it is pronounced by Kansans then and today. From the banks of the Arkansas River, the trail would follow the river for some time, and for the next 100 miles. The river had been a major route for centuries by the Plains Indians, early Spanish explorers, and now the Americans, as they worked their way through this desolate part of the Kansas Territory. But they were also entering the heart of hostile Indian country, territory of the fearsome Southern Comanche tribe, and, more concerning, the ruthless Pawnee tribe. Both of these tribes had, over the years, attacked, killed, robbed, or molested entire wagon trains, time after time. It was definitely a hot zone on the trail. So, it was with great relief when the wagon train reached the next big stop on the trail, located at the Big Bend in the Arkansas River.
This fort was established in 1863 by the U.S. Army near Great Bend, Kansas, to further protect commerce on the Santa Fe Trail from hostile Native American tribes.
Fort Zarah was established by General Samuel R. Curtis, who named it for his son, Major Zarah Curtis, who had been killed in the Civil War. Fort Zarah was established near a trading post where the Santa Fe Trail crossed Walnut Creek. A small town called Zarah also grew up around the fort. At its peak, Zarah had a hotel, 2 saloons, a blacksmith shop, a livery stable, a general store, a post office, and several homes. The town of Zarah is now a wheat field 3 miles east of Great Bend. The last citizen left Zarah in 1875, about 6 years after the fort was abandoned. Even though Fort Zarah had a short life, it saw its share of Indian fights and colorful characters, including George Armstrong Custer and the 7th Cavalry Regiment, Wild Bill Hickok, Buffalo Bill Cody, Kip Carson, and the great Indian chief, Sitting Bear.
Fort Zarah hosted a peace council with Plains tribes in November of 1866 as the U.S. continued to secure lands from the Native Americans. The so-called peace did not last long as throngs of white settlers poured into this area off the Santa Fe Trail. With trail traffic shifting to rail traffic, the fort was no longer needed and closed in December of 1869.
After stopping at Fort Zarah for several days to rest, the wagon train would move on, and travelers knew that they were about to enter one of the most dangerous sections of the trail, Pawnee country. The Pawnee Native American tribe was a particularly fearsome and cruel people who did not take kindly to the wagon trains traversing their land. They attacked the travelers often, and they showed no mercy. The travelers would be on edge for the next week or so on the trail. Not long after departing Fort Zarah, they would encounter one of the most significant landmarks along the trail, a hill and rock outcropping that appeared to be painted red. It It became to be known as Pawnee Rock, in deference to the Pawnee that lived in the area. They always appeared with their faces painted red when attacking.
Located at the halfway point on the Santa Fe Trail, many stories have been told to explain how this prairie citadel earned its name. Pawnee Rock made an impact on Santa Fe travelers as a highly recognizable landmark, marking the halfway point of the journey. I think this place must have been a place of relief and joy, as the travelers knew that only half the journey remained until reaching Santa Fe. At the time, the tradition was for families to carve their names into the side of the soft rock for posterity's sake. As you can see, they still remain.
As the hundreds of thousands of trappers, soldiers, gold seekers, and immigrants passed by, they carved their names into every conceivable place upon the face of the bluff. In 1848, James Birch, a soldier on his way to the Mexican War, wrote, quote, "Pawnee Rock was covered with names carved by the men who had passed it. It was so full that I could find no place for mine." End quote. Many stories have been told trying to explain how Pawnee Rock got its name. One story says that it was sacred ground for the Pawnee Indians, who held tribal councils on its flat top. Another describes a great battle in which a band of Pawnees was destroyed by a force of Kiowas, Cheyennes, and Arapahoes. But a favorite story among the wagon train traveler was that the rock received its name in 1826 from an embarrassing mistake by a young Kip Carson, the legendary American frontiersman, trapper, soldier, and guide. Christopher Kip Carson was one of the great heroes of the Old West and was another living legend on the Santa Fe Trail. Between 1826 until his death in 1868, he was considered the expert of every inch of the Santa Fe Trail, and an expert in dealing with the native tribes of the Great Plains and Rocky Mountains. Originally from Franklin, Missouri, where the Santa Fe Trail began, he signed on with a large merchant caravan in November of 1826, heading to Santa Fe when he was only 16 years old. The story goes that on his first trip, the wagon train that he was working for camped for the night near Pawnee Rock. He was given guard duty. During his shift, he thought he heard and saw something in the dark. Perhaps stealthy Pawnee attempting to creep into the camp to steal the horses. The Pawnee were known for night attacks against stocked wagon trains in this area. In the dark, he took careful aim with his musket and shot at a shadowy figure in the distance. He saw the shadowy figure drop dead in its track. Pleased with himself, he was convinced that he had killed his first Indian and drove off the attack. During the commotion, his associates initially praised him, and then they began searching for the dead Indian. But they only found a dead mule, his mule. You can imagine the ribbon he took from his colleagues. So, to commemorate this unfortunate experience, his associates named the place Pawnee Rock, and it stuck. And this is how the career of one of the most celebrated heroes of the Old West inauspiciously began. Upon departing from Pawnee Rocks, the wagon train would continue to the southwest and follow the western bank of the Arkansas River. But with the many brutal attacks by Pawnee and Southern Cheyenne that killed many white travelers along this stretch of the Santa Fe Trail, the U.S. government knew that they would have to do something, and so they established another U.S. cavalry outpost, Fort Larned. The wagon train would continue to follow the Arkansas River until their arrival at Fort Larned, a short distance after leaving Pawnee Rocks. When you return for Part 6, we'll take a closer look at Fort Larned. And then continue our ride down the Santa Fe Trail in Kansas. Next time on History on a Hog. If you've liked what you've been watching, please hit like or subscribe to keep up with new episodes. Thanks for watching.